So getting started, so to get to our present our telecommuting program, we actually, let me move forward one, we actually began with a 6-month pilot in 2009. And this was a self-administered pilot that we produced, and it came equipped with our own enrollment documents, program guide. We had a telecommuting coordinator established. And the purpose of the program was to assess the viability of a telecommuting program at the port. If it was possible to gain support from management throughout the organization, support from the executive team, and it was opened up through a application process. In total, we had 24 participants throughout the organization, from the seaport to the airport to other outlying teams or departments. And with it, similar to what we have right now, we had scheduled telecommuters, telecommuting from home up to 1 to 3 days per week. Some of the policies, procedures are similar to what we have today. Throughout the pilot, employees and managers alike and coworkers were surveyed, both with take-home surveys, online surveys. And from this, some of the results that we were able to gather were not only for productivity, communications, and environmental savings. Some positive results that we received from telecommuters that they actually reported an increase in their productivity, and as well as their work-life balance. We received high results on environmental savings and the measures of the tons of CO2 carbon that was saved, gallons of gas, one-way trips, and commuting hours based on the commute trip information that we surveyed through the telecommuters. Along with that, colleagues reported successful communications with telecommuters, that there was no adverse impact, and managers also responded with no adverse impacts on productivity throughout the pilot. So, moving forward, program formalization that we were not able to formalize a program until 2012 due to shifting priorities and projects that came up. And it wasn't until early 2012 that we were able to partner with WorkSmart and coordinate with LHOM on the development of a formal program. This was initially based on our initial pilots, some of the similar documents, programs, enrollment forms that were originally used. Those were used in the former program. And so the implementation planning began in May, and then we initially had a launch date of September 10th. And during this time, the formal team, the steering committee was formed, the telecommuting coordinator was established, and we had to kind of rebrand and reformat the process for the telecommuting program that included a communications plan for executives, managers, employees. We had a program guide for the definitions, why are we establishing a program, establishing eligibility, having some of the technology requirements, some health and safety and workers' comp, application documents for scheduled telecommuters, for occasional telecommuters. We had different requirements for the application process. And along with that, we had to establish training, which we did not have for the pilot project. This is a new training that we had developed for live in person, as well as develop ongoing continuous training for post-launch implementation. And from there, in between May and August, we were able to establish a buy-off from the executive team that we brought this forward to them, that we were establishing a formal program, and we had all the enrollment forms, we had all the processes, we collaborated with the IT department, our health and safety, our legal team, our risk management department, and it was with this that we presented our documents, our processes, our requirements, and we were able to get buy-off from all the departments that we were collaborating with, the executive team, and we had the go-ahead for a formal program to move forward. And prior to releasing the implementation and the requirements and the launch date, we actually sent an email to managers about a month before the formal launch to introduce them to the program and let them know of important dates. And the point of this was to gain support from supervisors and managers that we were establishing a formal program, and we wanted to give them time to kind of take it in and ask questions, and if they had any comments or concerns. We just wanted to give them as much time as possible to prepare for feedback that they received from their employees. And 1 week after that, we were able to actually launch the formal program through a port-wide email, postings on our internal intranet pages, that we were coming out with a formal telecommuting program that was going to be open to all employees. In addition to that, we had a requirement that anybody who was currently telecommuting from the pilot, or anybody that was brought on from the kind of informally into ad hoc telecommuting on inclement weather days or special projects, that everyone who was currently telecommuting or wants to telecommute had instructions to apply with the deadline of August 29th. So that was about 2.5 weeks of an enrollment period that they would speak with their managers to fill out the enrollment documents. We actually had 2 forms that telecommuters would fill out, an agreement form stating that they read all the policies, procedures, and we had a health and safety document that they would inspect their home to make sure that it was up to the requirements for ergonomics and safety. In addition to that, we designed an intranet page for the telecommuting program. There's a resource page that we wanted to direct employees from the emails and the postings that they would see around the port locations for application instructions, enrollment forms, training dates, and anything that we wanted to make it kind of a one-stop shop for anything they had for questions, just anything they needed, just to so we wouldn't have the burden of, a few hundred employees wanting to know questions, that we designed a kind of a bulletin board for them so that they can seek out the information from themselves and we can answer questions that they would have. Moving forward, we did receive quite a tremendous feedback from employees, knowing who was telecommuting at the port, who wanted to telecommute, and the results were pretty surprising that we found, just to see who was actually currently telecommuting at the port. And with this, once the deadline came up, we had an enrollment period for training that we had at 2 locations at the airport and seaport. And with this, we had live training provided to both managers and employees. In total, we had 162 participants. I would say about over 100 employees for the training, and probably around 50 to 60 managers. So it was about a 2/3 split of employee to manager training. And one of the lessons that we did learn was to kind of take into account that we received more feedback and responses for training that we anticipated. So we actually had to expand the class size. We had to book another additional room to account for the participants. So one of the I guess recommendations that we do have is to set the class size as large as possible, because telecommuting, that we did find out, was a popular item here at the port. And for the content that we wanted to deliver for the training, obviously right off the bat, we wanted to establish why we were developing a telecommuting program, why we were requiring employees to fill out forms and check and see if their house was ergonomically safe, just to establish that credibility that we wanted to develop a consistent and productive telecommuting workforce, just to establish the why of why we were building a program at this point, at this particular time. Additionally, just to review the policies, procedures, and guidelines, some of the technology, safety, and ergonomics. And the feedback that we did receive is that employees, they were educated on some of the information that we provided. That, one example is an employee didn't know that they could communicate with telecommuters from the office to the home. They thought it was a kind of a special day for telecommuters, that they were that they couldn't communicate with them, and that was one of the informational, tidbits that we provided to employees. So it was a benefit. Additionally, after our live in-person training that was helped out with Elham from WorkSmart, that we had to develop an online training for employees that were either on PTO or they were too busy to fill out the documents they had a bit of a delay with the enrollment period. So we essentially used the same PowerPoint from our live training and recorded audio on top of it and posted it to our internal intranet page. And that allowed employees to take the training at their convenience. They can sit at their desk and they can do the training during their lunch period or whenever. And so that was one of the benefits that we had for our program was the availability for training.
I'll go ahead and do that right now.
And so where are we at right now is, our program wasn't set in stone from the enrollment documents to the application process that we wanted to incorporate a feedback loop with employees. And with this, we were able to reduce some of the paperwork and we streamlined some of the application processes. And it was from that feedback from the executive team, from the managers, from the employees, that we were upfront and we said, if there's something that's not working, if there's something that you see that can be better, and that we want to hear about it because we want to make the program better for you. And with this, we were able to push back our annual renewal program. Because with this, it's part of an HR policy for flex time and alternative work arrangements that comes with telecommuting. And with that, we want to have an annual renewal process that we're going to begin in 2014 rather than our original date in 2013, just to give employees more time to become acclimated and to kind of reduce the process burden on them. We updated our telecommuting resource page based on where we were in the process for enrollment, launch, and training. We customized it for whatever phase we were in the project, that employees, they go to the page, it's customized for submitting paperwork, or it's customized for the training period, or post-launch or maintenance that they could find out what telecommuting is and so on. And additionally, received sort of a repetitive questions on the telecommuting program, such as, what's the eligibility? Can I telecommute when I have a sick child at home? And so we created an FAQs for employees and managers so they can seek out the information, and some of the information might be educational that they might not have known of before. And so this was one of the post-launch documents that we created for employees and managers to educate them more. Some of the tracking and organizational data that we wanted to keep organized for enrollment, we organized by telecommuter type, whether they were scheduled or an occasional, or if they just wanted to sign up for a flex schedule. We're keeping track of some of the demographics for employees, such as FLSA status, what division they are, department, some of their commute information, just so we have that on hand. And additionally, it's for some direct communications to telecommuters. And with the continued partnership with WorkSmart, we're going to be able to create surveys to gather more environmental data, productivity, some communications information, so we can so we're able to evaluate our telecommuting program. So we want to, because we had such a small sample size with our pilot, we're really looking forward to see what kind of data we're going to get from an organization-wide and more expanded program. And so some of the enrollment data that we had a tremendous response. Based from the 24 participants in the pilot, that was increased to 62 employees, 56 exempt and 6 non-exempt. The average amount of scheduled telecommuting days we found was 1.94, or about 2, and that was per a pay period 2-week span. We received 244 applications for occasional telecommuting. That includes anywhere from 1 day a year to a couple times a month, depending on what it is. But we just know that many employees are properly trained, They know the policies, procedures, they know how to be productive, and that was based on our program guide, our training, our ergonomic forms. And that was split between 182 exempt and 62 non-exempt. And additionally, we received applications for employees that they just wanted, a compressed schedule or a flex schedule. And that was, split between either a 9-day schedule or 410. And again, that was, a good split between frontline staff and management. It was a diversity of divisions and grades at all levels of the organization that we received applications from, anywhere from senior management to frontline staff, from the seaport, airport, and, our maintenance department as well. Entire department submitted applications for occasional and scheduled telecommuters as well. And with that was our implementation program for telecommuting. It was a long process, but with the help of WorkSmart, it was a success. The training was extremely successful. We received tremendous feedback from employees on why we were developing the program and coming up front with the reasons why that was really beneficial to us for establishing credibility with them.